UFC Vegas 86. This is the weigh-in recap show, full card predictions, and the betting breakdown. Looking forward to talking about each of the matchups on this card after seeing the fighters on the scales. So make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, turn the post notifications on, and make sure to share the video as well. And also note, Fight Companion, Saturday, full card for UFC Vegas 86. 4 p.m. Eastern time. Don't miss it. Looking forward to the live stream. And let's get into the fights. Starting the card off, we have Daniel Marcos versus Aoriqileng. I've been picking Marcos to get it done throughout the entire week. I think that his lateral movement is a factor here. I see him as the better pure kickboxer between the two, definitely with an advantage in the kicking department. I know Aoriqileng is a physically strong guy. He's imposing, he's explosive, and he has some power in his hands, but I don't see Marcos just sitting out there getting ripped apart. Quilong is a guy that, though is dangerous, I think, can clearly be outstruck. It's not so much that I think he's lacking durability, even though Zahabi dropped him. He's gone distance in past fights before. I mean, you look some fights back, lost to Cody Durden, even Jeff Molina at one point. I see Marcos as a guy that's a higher pedigree than, a lot of the recent losses for Aori. And I think that Marcos, after his last fight, the steam on his hype train has kind of softened up a little bit because him and Davey Grant had a competitive fight, but he still was able to beat the veteran, regardless, maybe controversial, still competitive fight where he had moments. Definitely has the skill set here to beat Aori. Now, as far as the face-offs between these two, note that Marcos did weigh in twice, but, overall looked pretty healthy on the scale. Didn't seem to be completely deteriorated, dried out, or sucked out. And then you got a face-off between the two. The scales are not something that's going to tell a real tale of the stories here. It's not a physique fight. As long as both guys look healthy on the scale and on weight, I expect the fight to play out similarly to how I have it in my head, which is probably Marcos out kickboxing him, rocking with some counters, using some nice kicks, having Aori explode at him with moments. But then I think Marcos is actually going to be dangerous inside too with punches. Even though I feel like he's not a high pedigreed boxer, I still think he can touch up Quilong with the hands. As far as the betting lines for this fight, currently the odds have Daniel Marcos minus 270. At open, he was sitting at minus 160, so he is spread 110 points. Wide favorite. Aori is plus 230, and over is likely at minus 185. I'm predicting that Marcos on the cards to end up coming through, which is plus 125. There is a knockout prop at plus 275. It's not that Marcos couldn't somehow find the knockout, but I just don't see him looking to rip the head off of Aoriqileng. Rather, I see him out kickboxing him in a fairly competitive fight that Marcos just, proves to be the sharper blade of the two in the standing. Marcos for the W. Let's keep running. Let's keep on running up. Next fight on the card, we got Hyder Amil versus Fernie Garcia. I've been picking the side of Hyder Amil. Note that Fernie is coming in on short notice and up a weight class too, which is going to be interesting to see how that factors into the wrestling department, because Hyder is a guy that can definitely put a wrestling pace on his opponents, and he also has a decent scrambling and grappling game, has some vulnerabilities, though. We've seen him put in bad spots in the past. It's just, is Fernie Garcia the guy that's going to beat him? I know Fernie's got some decent wrestling, too. He's got some boxing on him, but I don't feel like he's all that great as far as, the true UFC caliber guys go at 135. Now you're jumping up, taking on Hyder, who's larger than you, and, maybe with somewhat of a similar style, but maybe more bullying, grappling pressure by Hyder. So I see Hyder Amil getting this thing done on the judges' scorecards. Now, as far as the face-offs between these two savages, I'll be real with you. Fernie looks a little thick around the midsection in this side profile. He looks straight out of Tijuana right here, to be honest with you, man. It's reminding me of the Nacho Libre sidekick from this side profile. Now, as far as the face-off, though, you know what? Even though Fernie is coming up in weight, similar frames and stature, but you see there's definitely less body fat on Hyder. The height stats, though, I mean, they tend to be off for the UFC, and I definitely think that they're a bit off here because Hyder was listed at what? 5'10"? Even if there's shoes on Fernie and Hyder's barefoot, I mean, he's shorter between the two. I'd say maybe they're both around 5'8", 5'7" range, and Hyder's height's a little overrated. Nonetheless, though, I'm going to Amil to make it a good wrestling-heavy scrap, and I think that he wins this thing. Now, as far as the odds for this one, Amil's a bit of a favorite, man. Minus 220, minus 195. Fernie is plus 185. So what I'll lay out as the cautionary yellow flag here, if you're considering throwing on Amil, is he's unproven in the UFC. He's been in vulnerable spots on the regional scene, and he's also a 33-year-old prospect who's unbeaten. Fernie Garcia is coming in on short notice, though. He's coming up in weight. So I'm going to say Amil is able to outmuscle him in certain positions, out-wrestle him, and get a hard-fought decision. Minus 225 for that over. Amil to win it on the judges' scorecards, which to me makes perfect sense, is plus 115. So it's still in the plus money zone. I was actually anticipating that line to hit more like a minus something tag, minus 110, minus 130 even, because the likelihood of Amil stopping Fernie, it's going to be hard to do. Even though he's coming up, I still think he's got decent enough speed on the feet to avoid big power shots by Amil. And then we go to the ground, I think Amil mostly controls position. Competitive fight, fun fight, Amil on the judges' scorecards. Next fight on the card, we got Zach Pauga versus Bogdan Guskov. I've been picking Zach Pauga to win by knockout because I think Bogdan Guskov, maybe a fraud exposed. Now, I recognize a 14-3 record is impressive. He's got a shit ton of finishes. He's a guy that bullies opponents, and he's also scary looking. He kind of looks like an Anthony Smith, Krzysztof Sosinski crossover, just, without all the tattoos that Krzysztof had. If you don't know him, he's an OG. Volkan Oezdemir lost last time. He was hurt in that fight and then submitted by Volkan, who's known for his striking game. You can see, he's got wins outside of the UFC, respectable finishes. I'm picking Pauga, though, to end up chinning him and shocking a lot of people, and I recognize that the Jordan Wright decision looks like complete shit on Zach Pauga's record. I get it. But he still can rip with a bit of power. He's got finishes on the Ultimate Fighter at heavyweight, and he stopped people outside of the UFC. And I just feel like Bogdan Guskov is not as good as advertised. He definitely looks scary, but I think Zach Pauga is going to be able to fight with him. Lost recently to Bukowski. Still landed some decent hooks in that fight. And I think he can find a clean hook here with a Bogdan Guskov who definitely is going to be looking to put a pace on him and blitz him. Because Guskov is one of those kill, be killed styles. There's a face-off between these two guys. Guskov definitely looks softer in reality than what you saw of him outside of the UFC. I'm not trying to start rumors here, but outside of the UFC, drug testing protocols are a lot less stringent. Maybe pop in a, a little John Jones special a few weeks out before fights is easy to do outside of the UFC, but with USADA, not as easy. Zach Pauga looks pretty big, man. And I think if you get in the grappling between these two, Pauga's training with Curtis Blades. I think he's going to be able to outmuscle him. I don't see Pauga getting chinned by Guskov, so I think Pauga probably stops Guskov. The reason I favor the side of it being a little bit later into the fight is because I expect Guskov to come at him hard early, whereas Pauga can be conservative early, survive that onslaught, counter-strike, and then a tired Guskov is going to be a dead man walking. Minus 122 for Zach Pauga. He opened all the way up at minus 160. So Bogdan Guskov has become a very popular underdog this week. He's plus 102. I think he's probably getting finished. Over 1.5 is plus 123. Guskov has been finished, though, twice in the first round. I mean, we can look at Guskov's recent bouts that he's lost, right? This one was a decision years ago, but we got first round, both around the 3-minute mark. But Volkan Oezdemir is a lot more powerful than Pauga. So I definitely think it's possible that we hit that over 1.5. But you're playing with fire there. I think Pauga to win. I think Pauga to chin. So knockout for Pauga, plus 300. It's hard to want to throw down by knockout on Pauga after he went the distance with Jordan Wright, who's notoriously not durable. But it doesn't mean he couldn't get the finish here. And I think Bogdan Guskov is taking an L. And I guess I'm just not impressed by the Uzbek fighter, man. I'm fading an OV, which is big. Next fight on the card, Jeremiah Wells versus Max Griffin. The pick has been Max Griffin because I believe he can outpoint Jeremiah Wells. I think Wells is definitely scary inside of the clinch, from top position, and especially in close range with power punches. The dude's mad explosive. He closes the gap incredibly quickly. He's got legit KO power, and he's a big knockout threat here, even for somebody like Max Griffin, who for the most part is a pretty durable guy. Griffin's got quality stand-up, though. He's not an easy guy to bully in the grappling positions. He gave Michael Morales a real stern check last time out. Granted, still lost the fight. Prior to that, split decision over Tim Means. Neil Magny, split decision. He could have got that fight, but granted, Philly Fresh was close with Magny. Carlos Condit win years ago, knocked out Song Kinan. I know Wells is kind of a boogeyman in the weight class, but the Matt Semmelsberger split looks bad, man. Court McGee, Blood Diamond, Warley Alves, and a loss to Carlston Harris in a fight that he was landing takedowns and winning from top. I think Max Griffin takes him on the judges' scorecards. He's a veteran in the UFC here, and I know Wells is a scary powerhouse, but I don't think he's nearly as accurate and technical as somebody like Max Griffin. So even though he might have more punching power, I don't think that's the deciding factor. Now let's check out these guys facing off here. Good little face-off. Nose to nose. Obviously, Jeremiah Wells is more jacked than him. Is that surprising? We knew he was going to be more jacked. Yeah, I'm riding with Max Griffin. I think he can pull this thing out, man. He beat Mike Perry years ago, too. I've always liked Max Griffin as, like, one of the more, like, low-key sleeper fighters in the UFC that's actually pretty decent. Plus 130 for Griffin. Wells, minus 150. Now, as far as over 1.5, minus 220, I'm seeing it going over 1.5. I'm also thinking Griffin by a decision, which is all the way up at plus 400. So we're riding with Max Payne Griffin to get the dubski in this fight right here. I think he's getting a decision over Jeremiah Wells, man. Next fight on the card, we got Devin Clark versus Marcin Prachnio. I'm expecting Devin Clark to bully Prachnio. A lot of forward pressure and momentum, hard strikes inside of the clinch, wearing on Prachnio, beating him up, and then breaking him down. Now, Sam Alvey knocked out Prachnio early in his UFC run. I believe it was the debut, but if it was not, it was real early in the run, right? Not trying to say that because he lost to Sam Alvey years ago, he's getting knocked out here, but the possibility of knockout's definitely on the table. I think Devin Clark is going to fight well against Prachnio, who has decent traditionalist striking, but is not that fast. He's kind of on the slower side, doesn't use his range well. Granted, he's taller than Clark, but shorter reach. And like I said, he's not great from the outside. He's not a slick boxer at all. I'd say he's a decent kickboxer / Thai kickboxer. It's like, I know the Khalil Roundtree win is always going to stand out for Prachnio, but sometimes horrible fighters get wins over good fighters at some point, and I think Devin Clark should absolutely blitz and blaze through Prachnio. Maybe not blitz him in 30 seconds, but I think he will stop him at some point here. So we're going with Devin Clark. He's going to bully Prachnio. He's going to dominate him. And then there's the face-off. Like, Prachnio even looks goofy, man. He's just a goofy dude. I think he actually might be better suited for 85 with the I don't know, somewhat active dad bod. Maybe it's just the lighting, but I don't think he looks shredded. Devin Clark looks confident and ready to go. Like, I think Devin Clark is like, oh, feed me Prachnio. I feel like he recognizes that this is one of the easiest matchups in the weight class, and if he doesn't win this fight, he's getting cut from the UFC. So Devin Clark to get it done makes a ton of sense to me here. As far as the odds, Clark to win this thing, minus 230. Prachnio plus 195. You know, Clark is a parlay piece at minus 230. Under 2.5 plus 145. I feel like Clark is finishing him. Clark by TKO plus 335. I'm calling a stoppage here, man. Wide favorite, but you got a nice line on him getting a finish. Prachnio, it's not a top caliber guy, 35. I mean, granted, it's kind of young for heavyweight, I guess. Or excuse me, for light heavyweight. It's young for heavyweight, too. We're going with the Brown Bear. Brown Bear or retirement. That's it. Next fight on the card. We got ladies going after it. It's Loma Lookboonmee versus Bruna, Brazil. I think that Loma is going to bully Bruna Brasil. I actually don't think Brasil is all that good. I feel like she is technically sound from the outside, and she's going to beat kind of like these soft touches towards the back end of women's 115. But I see Loma Lookboonmee as somebody that's building into a legitimate contender. She's been in the UFC a very long time. Like, yeah, Brazil exceeds the number of fights that Loma has, but like, look at Loma's early UFC fights, and then you look at the early fights on the opposite end. Loma Lookboonmee debuted in the UFC. She was what, 3-1 at the time? She fought Angela Hill in her second UFC fight. When she fights like top caliber girl, Angela Hill, or somebody real stern like Loopy, okay, she takes an L, but past 2 years, she's looked better, destroyed Denise Gomes, who ran through Bruna Brasil. And you can see, like, Brazil, yeah, she beats a 5-0 girl in LFA, but it's outside of Marnik Man, who ended up getting exposed by Josephine Knutson, too. And then last time out, she beat Shauna Bannon by a decision, but come on, man, 5-0. Loma Lookboonmee is a savage. Lookboonmee for the W, locking it. I'm calling her the lock. She's the most confident pick. Ladies fight. I'm riding with it. Got the respectable face off there. Brazil's going to be a little taller, but I think she's going to have a really hard time keeping Lookboonmee off of her without the stinging punching power. And she's not high kick knocking her out. It's not happening. So we're riding with the side of W for Loma Lookboonmee. Minus 301, Loma Lookboonmee. Bruna Brasil, plus 251. As far as the odds on money line, shit, they've gotten wide. Opening minus 193, and it just got wider and wider. Minus 215 for an over 2.5. And then Lookboonmee by a decision, plus 130. Kind of seeing her outworking her on the scorecards. It's not like Lookboonmee's this A-tier finisher. Like, she's decision queen for the most part. And then last time out, she subbed Elise Reed. I think Elise Reed is less than Bruna Brasil, man. Like, I don't know. If those two were fighting, I might be favoring Bruna Brasil. Not trying to use no MMA math here, but it's just Lookboonmee to sub her. I don't think she's subbing a Brazilian, okay? So we're going to go Lookboonmee by a decision. She's getting it done. Next fight on the card is short notice replacement Timothy Cuamba versus Bolaji Oki. The only reason Cuamba wasn't signed from his performance, beating Mateo Vogel, who he was a dog against on Contender, I think it's because he didn't get the finish and he's 24. Like, if you would have knocked Vogel out, they would have said, okay, let's bring him in. But there's room to work with somebody like him. He's got a quality striking game. He's powerful. I feel like he's well-rounded for a young guy, too. At 25, it's just, dude, Bolaji Oki, this is the debut opponent, and you're coming up from 45, taking this fight on very short notice, and having fought literally, what, 6 days ago? He's fighting a week out. I know he's going to be in shape, and I'm glad he got a finish last time out, but Bolaji Oki is terrifying. I was picking Bolaji Oki to sleep Damir Hadzovic, who's a UFC veteran and a true 55er. I think when you put Cuamba out there with him, he's going to be in trouble. And I know some might think, okay, but Cuamba coming up from 45 and he's slick, like he's going to have a little speed maybe on the feet. No, I think Bolaji Oki's got faster combos and he's bigger and more powerful. Unfortunate for Cuamba. You get passed up on Contender after a win as a dog, and now you take a short notice debut, and it's almost looking like destiny for him to be knocked the fuck out. And he's a good fighter. He's got good potential. It's just sacrifice by fire. Welcome to the UFC, bro. Trial by fire, I should say. Bolaji Oki is going to give him the business, guys. Like, I think he's going to run him over. There's an intense face-off. Come on, bro. Look at Cuamba. Does that look like a guy beating Bolaji Oki? I don't see it. Bolaji Oki is going to be a menace, man. He's naturally more muscular and bigger. Not a drastic size difference, specifically with the height, but you look at the lean tissue. So if we're talking about on the inside, I think Oki's going to have way more fast twitch fibers and be way more explosive. Bolaji Oki, guys, he's getting this thing. That's the honest truth of it. We know it. Knockout win. Cuamba's a good prospect too, though, and like I'm excited for him to get a fight at 45, but this is not the debut I'd want for him. Now, Bolaji Oki at open was only minus 105, spread to upwards of minus 250, and now you got around minus 180 for Oki. Interesting. Plus 155 for Cuamba. I'm predicting an under, which is minus 145. Books thinking the same, but close. Knockout for Oki, plus 150. If Cuamba's got the chin of the century, he'll survive some bombs and maybe shock a lot of people going long. But I really think Bolaji is just going to put it on him. I think he's a terrifying striker. I mean, just the dude, like he ripped apart Salvador, who was supposed to be the quality striker, and Oki was a dog there, and he knocked him out in the first round. He rips to the body. He doesn't just rip shots upstairs like a reckless MMA brawler. He's like a proficient kickboxing, MMA boxing style. His hands flow. And I think he's going to flow his hands nicely on Cuamba, who still got good potential, though. So in the future, we'll be looking at Cuamba maybe as a dog at 45 after getting badly knocked out here, and then he comes back and fucks somebody up. Next fight, featured prelim, we got Trevin, Giles, Carlos Prates. Listen, this fight is simply put gatekeeping OG versus up-and-comer they're trying to build, because the Brazilian market is looking for a sensational new welterweight. Gilbert Burns is getting up there. Bonfim kind of got exposed by Dalby, okay? Michael Morales is doing real good, though, so Morales is right up in that top caliber. Prates is another guy with a long frame, like a Michael Morales, dangerous stand-up. I think Giles is getting slept here. I could see Giles timing takedowns, but then not securing dominant top control, but rather being brushed off, and then we get back up to the feet. I think Prates, he's going to look stylish striking. I think he's going to rip him apart standing up. I'm going Prates via KO. I think the kickboxing game is too real. Striking from distance, on point. He's got legit finishing abilities. His knees are dangerous. His elbows, obviously a Muay Thai background. He knows how to use his leg. Even if Giles lands takedowns, I'm telling you, you're going to see Prates bounce back up, and you're going to see Prates knock him out. So, Prates, KO. Sorry, Trevin Giles. Giles is a gatekeeper now, man, and he's a journeyman. At one point, he had some steam on him, but fell off since that Delidze W. There's the face-off. Prates just looks ready to eat, bro. Prates is a scary motherfucker. Trevin Giles is going down. Tough kid. Tough cat, I should say. He's not a kid by any means. I mean, he's 31 rather. As far as the odds, minus 240 for Prates, plus 205 for Giles. Under 1.5, plus 100. I think Prates might get him in the first round. But I'm not telling you under 1.5 or over, but maybe in the first round. Prates knockout, minus 115. Yeah, I'm seeing Prates drowning Trevin Giles in the striking, rocking him, knocking him out. We've seen him knocked out. Duplessis KO, Morales KO, Bonfim subbed him up. Giles, as of late, has been getting finished, man. He's got 2 Ws, though. Koshke, and he got rocked by Preston Parsons, though, who's nowhere near the prowess of stand-up that we have with Prates. Like, obviously, he's a bulldog and has decent wrestling. Nah, Prates for the W, knockout win. And I think it could be in that first round, guys. Let's keep running and let's jump to the main card. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash the likes. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. We got Rodolfo Vieira versus Armen Petrosyan. I think Armen Petrosyan will stop the takedowns. I'm picking him to get it done. Rodolfo Vieira needs this fight on the floor, whereas Petrosyan probably wants nothing to do with the legit championship-level jiu-jitsu on the opposite front. Petrosyan's got good striking from distance. Not the most powerful striker, but does have enough sting and definitely a clear gap and advantage in the striking department, where I can see Rodolfo Vieira, who definitely has developed hands, still a little stiff, still clearly slower than Petrosyan. A lot of takedown stuff against Chris Curtis. I think Petrosyan has quality hips too, especially coming from that kickboxing background. You transition, right? You're in MMA, and then next thing you know, you're able to stop these jiu-jitsu takedowns. This is not a D1 wrestler. And Rodolfo Vieira, this is a master of when it gets to the ground, but he's not great at getting it there. That's unfortunately the missing link to Rodolfo Vieira's UFC successes, and that's why he's been, hit or miss as soon as he took his first loss, which was against Hernandez by sub, crazy enough, and then the Chris Curtis decision. Beat Cody Brundage, but he got rocked so bad in that fight. Like, I know Vieira hasn't been knocked out yet, but I just see Petrosyan as the first guy to chin him. So we're going Armen Petrosyan knockout. And I think Petrosyan's getting a little knockout streak going in the UFC, or at least one off here. There's Petrosyan on the scale. Looks good and ready to rock. There is Vieira. For the prelims, we didn't have these scales. and there was no, substantial weight issues, so that's why I didn't bring him up either. There's Rodolfo Vieira, looking a little tan, bro. He looks ready to go. He looks like he's been at the beach. There's the face-off. We're going with Petrosyan, but, I won't lie to you, that giant Adam's apple and, Nate Diaz shoulder posture is not the most intimidating ever. But then I got Rodolfo Vieira that kind of looks like he's looking up at his grandfather or something like that. I don't know. He looks like he's got sweet eyes like the puppy dog. Yeah, we're going Petrosyan. Petrosyan knocks him out. I think so. As far as the odds, Armen Petrosyan is a dog, -102. I was actually surprised on the first picks video of the week, the early Sunday breakdown. I was like, Petrosyan sitting at a dog tag here? Vieira's -118. I like Petrosyan. Over 1.5, -170. It might get you in trouble, though. That's what happens when Vieira gets dropped in the first round. I think if you're going anyway, it's Petrosyan money line. Petrosyan by knockout's not crazy at +250. Armen Petrosyan to get it done is what I see as the call, and that's the side that I'm confidently riding with. Petrosyan, knockout win. Let's keep running. Next fight on the card, we got Michael Johnson versus Darrius Flowers. I won't lie to you guys. This, for me, might be my highly anticipated matchup of the card. You say, bro, that's really fucking weird because, neither guy is top tier. I'll tell you why. I dug into this matchup deeper by watching the media days of both. And these guys have a little history. They know each other. They're not boys, but they know each other. I picked Darrius Flowers over Michael Johnson, which is interesting because he is unproven as it gets inside of the UFC, but I know he has legit hands. The dude hits really hard. He's knocked out bigger guys at welterweight, at middleweight. He boxed as a cruiserweight. Don't look at his boxing record, please. Do yourself the favor because it's going to make you immediately fade. And you know what? Actually, look at his boxing record. 1 win, 10 losses. I know, it's rough. It's rough on those streets, but he was being used as an opponent. If you know anything about the boxing promotion game, you got to understand certain guys that don't care, that are just willing to fight anybody. They pay him a little check. He takes the fight on short notice. They call him on a few days. Yo, we need somebody. You willing to jump in at cruiserweight? He shows up with a beer belly, and he ends up losing to some up-and-coming prospect. Darrius Flowers in MMA, though, is definitely dialed in. He's shredded. We'll look at the scales in a sec. Michael Johnson's chin is so suspect right now. Michael Johnson, distance with Clay Guida loss, win against Alan Patrick, Jamie Malarkey, split decision, he should have won that. Mark Jacasey win, Diego Ferreira chins him, and then before, he got chinned by Josh Emmett after outstriking him for most of the fight. Michael Johnson looks amazing, and then he gets knocked out. This is just unfortunately his career right now, man. He's a slick dude, he's been around forever. I'm going to say something that maybe I'm going out on a whim and saying it. Maybe this isn't truth. But I think Michael Johnson, his biggest problem is there's so many fights that aren't on his record that he had in the gym. He's a guy that leaves it all on the line. We've seen footage of him sparring with Usman and throwing heavy fucking hands. So how many of those unfilmed wars do we have with Michael Johnson scrapping with legit fighters and maybe doing well sometimes, maybe getting hurt other times, but taking unnecessary damage, right? Too many hard spars, I think, is what has caught up to him. And that is why I think the chin has suffered here. And I think Darrius Flowers, young guy on the come up right now, it just makes sense that Michael Johnson's going to get caught with something here, especially that he has boxed before, even though he might not be a good boxer. This ain't a boxing match. All right, let's look at the scales. There's Darrius Flowers. He did need 2 attempts to make the weight, but ultimately was able to make the weight. Looks decent. I mean, there's definitely less body fat. He definitely had a weight cut. There's Michael Johnson. Looks like his typical self. He said in the media that he ain't been going to the barber, nothing. He's just ready to fight. This is all he's focused on. Then there's the face-off, man. I'm excited as fuck for this one. Damn. Both dudes looking a little grimy, though, with the beards, man. After this fight, I think we got to hit up a Vegas barber for Michael Johnson, especially. Flowers, I mean, if he's going for the more brolic look, that's fair. Yeah, we're going with Michael Johnson to get chinned. I'm going with Darrius Flowers to knock him out, man. They blocked him on Instagram, which I thought was mad funny because I guess these guys, like I said, they were a little cool at one point of their lives. And since Flowers took the fight, Michael Johnson blocked him. But, when Michael Johnson explained it, I'm like, I would have blocked him too. Every story he's posting, Darrius Flowers is the first guy to fucking watch it. Rather, it was Facebook, not Instagram. Still funny, though. Plus 120 range for Flowers. Minus 144 for Johnson. Michael Johnson will be winning this fight until he doesn't. And he's getting slept, guys. This is the truth. Brother, I tell you this. This is the truth. Knockout for Flowers. Plus 200 tag. Yeah, I think Flowers is knocking him out. I see that. I see that as the lineup. I see that as what's going down. Darrius Flowers, KO, plus money. Next fight. Brad Tavares, Gregory Rodriguez. I'm picking RoboCop to win this thing. He's more powerful. His hands are way more dangerous than Brad Tavares. Jiu-jitsu is solid as hell. And Tavares is not a big explosive puncher. He's a quality enough striker. He's a guy that can put his shots together. Not that fast, though. And we've seen him take a ton of losses. And I just feel like a heavy-handed RoboCop can probably chin Brad Tavares. So I'm going to go with RoboCop to knock Tavares out. Tavares is coming off that decision with Chris Weidman. I mean, it's cool that he beat a legend, but before that, Bruno Silva flattened him bad. Flattened him real bad. And I think that Gregory Rodriguez has power. I mean, maybe not the same technical capabilities of Bruno Silva, but still has that dog, that pressure, that power. And he definitely exceeds him in the jiu-jitsu department. I feel like Gregory Rodriguez is pretty damn good. He's fucking lost, a handful. Petrosyan got him on a split. And then he lost to Bruno Ferreira by one punch knockout, and Ferreira's a stud. Inside of the UFC, Gregory Rodriguez is a menace, man. And I think his power is going to be the ultimate difference maker. I got him by knockout, but I will say inside distance wouldn't be crazy with how good the jiu-jitsu game is of Gregory, even though he doesn't normally show it. But against Tululin, he showed it. This is Gregory Rodriguez, Mr. President, Barack Obama himself. And then there is Brad Tavares. Both guys in very good shape. There's the face-off. Rodriguez, the bigger dude. Yeah, I think RoboCop's going to get him. I think it's going to be a fun fight, though. Holy shit. But I see a big shot from RoboCop dropping Brad Tavares. As far as the odds, plus 210 for Tavares. So you get no beautiful line on Gregory at minus 250. A knockout for Gregory Rodriguez is plus 180 with a Rodriguez inside distance plus 110. It was up at plus 140 earlier. There's definitely a lot of people on it. Line's coming down. Rodriguez by sub plus 700. Holy shit. Under 2.5 is minus 125. I think we're getting a finish between these two. And I think it's going to be Rodriguez finishing Brad Tavares. We're going knockout win, RoboCop. Next fight is our featured bout of the night. It's Ihor Potieria versus Robert Brishek. Potieria missed weight, something to know. I'm picking Brishek to get the W. Poteria's dropping down to 185 for the first time since his pre-UFC days before Contender Series. And in the light heavyweight division, Potieria, he's like kind of a wild card. He's a slick enough striker, and he's definitely got some pop in his hands. And he's a dangerous guy with, I would say, a shady gas tank. And I feel like at a technical striking disadvantage here with Brishek, who I think is going to be a very technically sound striker. Bolato got him last time, even though it's different weight classes and all you're talking about actual skill. Brishek's a way better boxer than Bolato. Carlos Ulberg, dangerous striker. Okay, knocked him out. Fair. Shogun Hua, washed. And then Negumedianu outboxed him. And I think Brishek's better with the hands than him. And we're down a weight class, so Poteria's durability could be worse. He missed weight, so let's check him out on the scale. Let's see how our weight misser looks here. And it's not like Poteria's ripped. I don't know if he lost just muscle. He doesn't look vascular. He looks sucked out, drained. I mean, I do like the crucifix on his chest, though. It's a cool tat. But damn, man. He looks soft. He looks soft, and he missed weight. Then I got Brishek, who looks fucking chiseled. And there's a face-off. I guess from there he looks more ripped, but I don't know. Maybe it's the lighting. Maybe I'm being over judgmental, but I got to analyze the frames, man. I just don't think Potieria looks much better than he did at 205, maybe just skinnier. Brishek is going to chin him. Brishek's hands to fly and to deliver some violence. Knockout win, Brishek. Minus 163 for Brishek. Potieria plus 143. The under 1.5 is all the way up in minus 260. It's probably a finish, but under 1.5. Then it's under, what, over 1.5 at plus 200. It wouldn't be crazy, though, for Brychek to get him in the second round after like a calculated first round. And I do think early in the fight, Potiera at full gas tank is still a quality fighter. I mean, he's got some hands. Like, yeah, he sucks later because he completely fatigues, but he's got power. He rocked Balato, who's a big dude. Knockout for Brychek, minus 130. My gosh. So minus 163, Brychek, the money line is solid. The over 1.5 is better than anything else, like as far as props or over under, because like Brychek in the first round, I know it could happen, and I know he's done it before, but I feel like he's a calculated guy. But then he ends up sleeping him in the first, and you regret him playing the over 1.5. But it's not crazy for it to go over 1.5. Brychek for the W. Excited for this fight. Co-main event, we got Dan Ige versus Andre Fili. I am picking the side of Dan Ige. I think Ige's boxing's going to come through, man. I think he'll look pretty quick on the feet. Fast little punch combinations. Bit of stinging power. And I think that Andre Fili on the opposite front, he's good from the outside. And I know he just knocked out Lucas Almeida, but I don't see him as that dude to take out Dan Ige. Like, I think this is just too big of a step up in competition. I think Ige's going to be more accurate with his hands. I think he rocks Andre Fili at some point in this fight. I think that Ige's got more punch and power, too. Andre Fili is athletic. He's long. He's got decent striking from distance. And he's also got quality grappling, too, but nothing that jumps out the page as impressive as hell to, you know, beat a legit ranked guy, especially on short notice. I'm going Ige to win. I've been calling decision, but like I'm kind of seeing an Ige overhand. There is Andre Fili, who's got all the ink. Holy shit, he's inked up. And then there's Dan Ige, straight flexing and a face-off. Nothing crazy from the scales. You wouldn't expect anything crazy from either one of these guys. They're on point for the most part. And I think Dan Ige is going to end up getting a good win here in the co-main. As far as the odds, minus 175 for Ige, the favorite. Fili plus 150. Looking at Dan Ige to get it done by a decision, plus 160. What's an Ige knockout? Plus 230. The intriguing part of Ige knockout is Joanderson Brito chinned Andre Fili. He's a damn explosive guy. But normally he takes a good shot. So I'm going to say Ige on the scorecards officially. Main event of the evening, Jack Hermansson versus Joe Pyfer. If you guys haven't, smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe. Main event, I'm picking Joe Pyfer, as you guys probably already know. Yeah, I'm riding with the prospect here. I think Pyfer is going to be a lot more powerful. I see him as the better striker, the better boxer for sure. Quicker on the feet, stronger in the clinch, stronger in the grappling. Hermansson probably has like better pure submissions on paper, but in practice, I think Joe Pyfer will like stuff takedown onslaught, will probably smother any potential submission attempts. And if you see Hermansson going for legs, I can see Pyfer dropping some hammers on him and knocking him out. I just think Jack Hermansson is going to be in a lot of danger here. He's a well-rounded guy, but does nothing spectacular, whereas I feel like Joe Pyfer has got the goods, man, especially with these hands. Like, I think his power is pretty fucking legit. Jack Hermansson's a guy that can technically outstrike a lot of decent fighters. I guess I'm just believing in the Joe Pyfer train. I mean, he looks like an imposing physical threat. He looks like a freak with his power. He beat Ngannou's punch record, regardless of if in practice he punches harder. The dude has got thudding power. And I think he's going to knock out Jack Hermansson here. As far as the scales between these two, we have Joe Pyfer repping Team USA. Love to see the flag. And you got Jack Hermansson with the flex. He's in great shape. And there's a face-off. Let's see who takes it, man. Does young blood Joe Pyfer on the come-up take out the OG, the 35-year-old? I believe he's gonna. I think he finishes him, man. I'm calling a knockout win. I think he rocks him on the feet, touches him up with the hands. And if Hermansson looks to get it to the ground, I think he's met by some strength by Pyfer. Minus 235 for Pyfer, plus 200 for Hermansson. Pyfer by knockout, plus 125. Okay. Pyfer by KO at plus 125 is something I could consider. Because the sub at plus 375, like, subbing up Hermansson, I think more likely he's chinning Hermansson. Over, under, don't really like it. Pyfer minus 235, chalky favorite, but I'm picking him to get the knockout. I think he can pull it off. That over, do I have to give you one? Over, under? I'd say under 3.5. Under 2.5 is there. Like, I think probably. But I'd have more confidence on under 3.5. But I think Pyfer probably stops him in the first or second. I think I'm actually leaning towards second, though. Could even be third. First, second, third. Pyfer, with his power, he might chin Hermansson earlier than we're thinking and have the best performance of his career. Main event pick, Pyfer. That is the card, but we're not done just yet. We're going to talk about some post-weigh-in parlays, which there's no better way to do it than following the weigh-ins. Where is my head at after seeing everybody on the scales? Devin Clark, Bolaji Oki, right? Loma Lookboonmee. Where is our main card fighters? I hate how they split it up on fight odds. Or best fight odds, I should say. Fightodds.io. Shout out to you guys. You just need a parlay section. Pyfer, Clark, Oki, Lookboonmee, Robocop. I think Brajček wins too. Prates should get it done. As far as the dogs go, I don't know. Something is just calling me towards... I have to pick. I got to pick one of them. I think I'm going to go with the Max Griffin train. Max Payne. Marcos. Plus 2,857. Yeah, this is just lottery ticket shit. But I want to be more calculated. So, lock was the women's fight because I'm a psycho. Lookboonmee. I think very good chance Clark Lookboonmee ends up hitting. I think very good chance Lookboonmee with Daniel Marcos comes through. I think Daniel Marcos, if you don't want a women's fight with somebody like a Devin Clark, probably hits. I think in all actuality, even Daniel Marcos with some main card savagery on it. You ride with Brajček here. Marcos Brajček. Marcos Brajček has the best ring to it right now. Plus 130. That's probably a safer one here with Prates plus 223. Do I want to throw Flowers? Flowers to get it done. Or if you got the degeneracy for it, a Flowers by knockout, straight line, depending where you're at, that's going to be huge. I think Flowers could chin Michael Johnson. Dan Ige wins. Plus 413. Marcos, Brajček, Prates, Ige. Want the women's fight in? I think Lookboonmee bullies her. We'll go Lookboonmee. Plus 604. I think Bolaji gets it done. Plus 1,000. Max Griffin is just burning a heart or burning a freaking, flame in my fucking chest over here. I got to put him down on it, man. I think he's a killer. Nah, I guess he's maybe not a killer compared to Jeremiah Wells, but I think he's a killer pick, bro. Plus 2,481. I think that the over in this Amil fight makes a lot of sense. Sometimes I go out of hand with these calls, but I'm just showing you where my head's at in a sense with long distance. But Marcos Brajček and the over in the Amil fight's not crazy. Marcos Brajček and Dan Ige sounds good if you don't want Lookboonmee. If you're in the mentality where you're bro, keep me off the fucking prelim guys, then you throw somebody like a Brajček on the card, then you could say, okay, I want main card savagery. Ige following him probably has a great chance. Those two together. But I think Daniel Marcos early gets it done. I think Daniel Marcos got a great shot. Let's fucking get it, man. UFC Vegas 86. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's weigh-in recap show. I had a damn good time. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the picks. Did any of you guys flip on any of your picks? I want to know, following the weigh-ins, if anybody had a change of heart on anything. Let me know, though, guys, what you thought in the comments. Big W in the chat. If you got nothing to say, but you just enjoy the content, I appreciate you all. Smash the likes if you're new, subscribe, and turn those post notifications on so you don't miss a video on the channel. I got mad love for each and every one of you. See you guys tomorrow for the Fight Companion. Peace, guys. Good night.